Commander Alex Richards stood at attention in the gleaming halls of the Galactic Military Council headquarters. The massive structure orbited the neutral planet of Nexara, serving as the central command for all military operations across the known galaxy. Alex had never seen anything quite like it. Towering alien beings moved through corridors that seemed designed for creatures much larger than humans. The walls pulsed with a soft blue light, and the air carried scents that reminded him of ozone and something metallic. The invitation had arrived 3 weeks ago through official diplomatic channels. Earth had only recently been accepted into the Galactic Federation, and this was humanity's first formal military assessment. Alex knew the stakes were high. How humans performed here would determine their role in galactic defense for generations to come. General Korath of the Vorthic Empire approached with heavy footsteps that echoed through the chamber. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick, armored skin that looked like it could stop bullets. His forearms moved with practiced military precision, and his eyes glowed a deep amber color. Behind him walked several other alien military leaders, each representing different species from across the galaxy. "Commander Richards," Korath's voice rumbled like distant thunder, "we have reviewed your species' application for military service. Your people show promise in some areas, but we must determine where humans fit best in our grand military structure." Alex nodded respectfully. He had been briefed on Vorthak culture during the journey to Nexara. They valued strength above all else and had built their reputation as the galaxy's premier warriors over thousands of years. "We're honored by this opportunity, General. Earth's military forces are ready to prove their worth." A sound that might have been laughter came from the group of alien observers. One of them, a crystalline being that sparkled under the chamber's lights, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "Prove their worth? These soft creatures can barely survive in standard atmospheric conditions without protection. How do they expect to function in combat situations?" Korath raised one of his massive hands for silence. "The Crucible of Endurance will answer all questions about human capabilities. This trial has been used for over 2,000 years to evaluate military personnel from every species in the galaxy. It separates the truly elite from those better suited for support roles." The general activated a holographic display that showed various alien species attempting different challenges. Alex watched as massive, muscular beings struggled through what appeared to be extreme physical tests. Some collapsed, others gave up, and only a few managed to complete the courses shown. "The failure rate stands at 90%, Korath continued. "Even among our most experienced soldiers, very few can complete all phases of the Crucible. Those who fail are assigned to logistics, technical support, or administrative duties. Those who succeed join the elite combat units that protect our galaxy from external threats." Alex studied the holographic images carefully. The tests looked demanding, but nothing seemed beyond human capabilities. In fact, some of the challenges reminded him of basic training exercises from Earth's military academies. What exactly does the Crucible involve? Physical endurance, mental resilience, and tactical problem-solving under extreme stress, replied another alien, this one resembling a giant insect with multiple eyes. "The trials are designed to push participants beyond their breaking point. Most species discover their limits very quickly." Korath's amber eyes focused on Alex with what might have been pity. "Humans are a young species with relatively weak physical characteristics compared to established galactic races. Your bone density is low, your muscle mass is minimal, and your sensory capabilities are limited. We expect you will perform adequately in support positions. However," the general continued, "galactic military protocol requires all new species to attempt the Crucible. You may select a team of your best soldiers to represent humanity. The results will determine your species' official military classification and available service roles." Alex felt a surge of determination. Throughout human history, others had underestimated his species' capabilities. "We accept the challenge, General." "When do we begin?" "The next Crucible session begins in 2 standard weeks on the training moon of Torvin. You may bring up to 12 personnel." I suggest you choose carefully, as their performance will reflect on all of humanity for the foreseeable future. The crystalline being spoke again. Perhaps we should lower the difficulty settings for the human participants. It would be unfortunate if they were seriously injured during trials designed for more robust species. Absolutely not, Alex replied firmly. Humans will face the same challenges as every other species. We don't want special treatment or reduced standards. This caused a stir among the alien observers. Several exchanged what appeared to be amused glances, while others made sounds that might have been skeptical comments in their native languages. Korath nodded with apparent approval. Very well, the standard Crucible protocols will apply. You have 2 weeks to prepare your team and travel to Torvin. I must warn you that the trials have broken some of our finest warriors. There is no shame in failure when facing challenges of this magnitude. As the meeting concluded, Alex was provided with detailed briefing materials about the Crucible facility and basic information about what to expect. The documents were surprisingly vague about specific trial details, noting only that participants would face extended periods of physical and mental stress designed to reveal their true limitations. Walking back to his quarters, Alex began mentally reviewing the personnel files of Earth's available military units. He needed soldiers who could represent humanity effectively, individuals who embodied the best of human military training and mindset. The team would need diverse skills, unshakable determination, and the ability to work together under pressure. The alien observers clearly expected humans to fail quickly and spectacularly. Their attitude suggested they viewed this as a formality, a requirement to be completed before assigning humans to minor support roles. Alex smiled grimly as he considered their assumptions. Throughout history, others had made similar mistakes. About human capabilities, he spent the evening reviewing training videos and performance records, selecting candidates who had excelled in the most demanding military programs Earth had to offer. Each potential team member had survived selection processes that eliminated 95% of applicants. They had endured training that pushed human physiology and psychology to their absolute limits. As Alex prepared for sleep, he reflected on the day's events. The Galactic Military Council was about to learn something important about humanity. What they considered an ultimate test of military capability might turn out to be nothing more than a standard training exercise for properly prepared human soldiers. The next 2 weeks would be crucial for planning and preparation, but Alex felt confident in species chances. The aliens were about to discover why humans had conquered their own planet despite being physically weaker than many of its other inhabitants. The transport ship descended through Torvin's thin atmosphere toward the Crucible facility. Sergeant Lisa Park pressed her face against the viewport, studying the harsh landscape below. The training moon's surface was a mixture of jagged rock formations, deep canyons, and areas that looked like they had been deliberately designed to challenge anyone trying to cross them. "Looks friendly," muttered Tom Bradley from the seat beside her. The Marine Corps veteran had volunteered for the mission after reading the initial briefing materials. Like the rest of the human team, he was curious about what the aliens considered their ultimate military challenge. Maya Singh, sitting across the aisle, was reviewing the equipment manifest on her tablet. The former Army Ranger had noticed something interesting about their gear allocation. "They're giving us standard field packs, weapons, and survival equipment. Nothing exotic or specialized. This looks like standard infantry loadout." The 12-person human team represented the best from each branch of Earth's military. Commander Richards had selected individuals with proven track records in the most demanding training programs available. Rangers, Marines, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, and pararescue personnel formed the core of the group. Dave Wilson, a former Green Beret, was studying the facility schematics provided by their alien hosts. "The course layout reminds me of the survival training we did in Alaska, except this one's supposed to last 72 hours instead of 2 weeks. 72 hours? Lisa raised an eyebrow. "That's it? I thought this was supposed to be some kind of ultimate endurance test." The ship touched down at the facility's landing pad. where General Korath and his staff waited to greet the arriving participants. Other teams were already present, representing various alien species from across the galaxy. The humans disembarked and immediately noticed the size difference between themselves and the other competitors. Most of the alien soldiers stood significantly taller than humans, with obvious physical advantages in terms of muscle mass, armor-like skin, or multiple limbs. A group of reptilian beings looked like they could punch through solid steel, while another team of crystalline creatures appeared to be nearly indestructible. "Welcome to the Crucible," General Korath announced to all assembled teams. "You represent the finest military personnel your species have to offer. The trials you will face have been refined over millennia to identify those truly worthy of elite combat status." An alien instructor, resembling a massive armored beetle, took over the briefing. "The first trial begins immediately. You will conduct a 72-hour endurance march through the designated course area. The route covers approximately 200 kilometers of varied terrain. You must carry full combat equipment, maintain formation, and complete navigation checkpoints along the way." The instructor's multiple eyes scanned the assembled teams. "No rest periods are authorized. No equipment may be discarded. Any team member who falls behind or cannot continue will result in disqualification for the entire team. The course includes hostile environmental conditions, obstacle complexes, and simulated combat scenarios." Lisa noticed several of the alien teams looking nervous. Some were already checking their equipment and discussing strategy in hushed tones. The humans, meanwhile, were listening with expressions of mild interest, as if receiving instructions for a routine training exercise. "Medical personnel will monitor all participants," the instructor continued. "However, assistance will only be provided in life-threatening situations. This trial has broken many of our finest warriors. There is no shame in recognizing your limitations." The teams were given 30 minutes to conduct final equipment checks and prepare for the march. The humans gathered in a circle, with Lisa taking charge of the tactical discussion. "Okay, people, this is straightforward. 200 clicks in 3 days with full gear. We'll use standard rotation procedures for point and rear guard positions. Tom, you take navigation lead. Maya, you're on pace control. Everyone else, standard march discipline." Dave nodded approvingly. "Sounds like a regular training exercise. Maybe a bit easy since we don't have to worry about live fire or actual enemies." The other team members murmured agreement. Most of them had completed marches of similar or greater distance during their military training. The main difference here was the alien environment, but Torvin's conditions seemed relatively mild compared to some of Earth's more challenging training locations. "Remember," Lisa continued, "we're representing humanity here. Let's show these aliens what human soldiers can do. Keep the pace steady, watch out for each other, and treat this like any other field exercise." The starting signal echoed across the facility. All teams began moving simultaneously toward the first checkpoint. The initial terrain was relatively flat, allowing the humans to observe how the other teams approached the challenge. Most alien teams started at a fast pace, apparently trying to build an early lead. Their formations were loose, with individuals spreading out according to their natural stride lengths. Communication between team members appeared minimal. The human team, by contrast, moved in a tight formation with practiced precision. They maintained a steady pace that looked almost casual compared to the intense effort displayed by other teams. Lisa called out cadence quietly, keeping everyone synchronized. "Left, left, left, right, left. Keep it moving, people. This is just getting started." After 6 hours of marching, the first signs of trouble appeared among the other teams. Several alien soldiers were beginning to show obvious fatigue. The reptilian team that had looked so formidable at the start was now struggling to maintain their initial pace. The crystalline beings were having particular difficulty with the uneven terrain. Their rigid structure, which seemed so durable, was proving to be a disadvantage on rocky surfaces that required flexibility and balance. Meanwhile, the humans continued their steady progress. They had fallen into the rhythm of a long march, sharing navigation duties and adjusting their formation smoothly as terrain conditions changed. Conversation was minimal but friendly, with occasional jokes to maintain morale. "How long has it been?" Tom asked during a brief water break at the 12-hour mark. Maya checked her chronometer. 12 hours down, 60 to go. We're ahead of pace and everyone's looking good. Around them, other teams were beginning to show serious signs of stress. 2 alien teams had already lost members to exhaustion, resulting in automatic disqualification. The remaining competitors were pushing themselves hard, but their movements were becoming increasingly uncoordinated. Dave noticed the alien observers watching from monitoring stations along the route. They looked confused about something. Keep seeing them check their instruments and shake their heads. "Maybe their equipment isn't working properly," Lisa suggested. "We should focus on our own performance and let them worry about their technical problems." As the first day transitioned into night, the environmental conditions became more challenging. Temperature dropped significantly, and a steady wind made navigation more difficult. The humans adapted smoothly, activating their cold weather protocols and adjusting their formation to account for reduced visibility. By the 24-hour mark, half of the original teams had been eliminated. The remaining alien competitors were showing severe signs of fatigue and stress. Some were stumbling regularly, while others had developed coordination problems that made formation movement nearly impossible. The human team, however, continued their methodical progress. They had settled into the comfortable rhythm of an extended field exercise, treating the march as routine rather than extraordinary. Their pace remained steady, their formation stayed tight, and their morale remained high. "This is actually kind of relaxing," Tom commented during another brief halt. "No drill instructors yelling at us, no surprise inspections, no additional tasks to complete while we're marching." The other team members chuckled quietly. By human military standards, the Crucible's first trial was almost pleasant in its simplicity. General Korath stared at the monitoring displays in disbelief. The human team had completed the 72-hour endurance march with minimal signs of fatigue, while every other participating team had either failed completely or finished in states of near collapse. The humans had maintained their pace and formation throughout the entire trial. "Run the medical scans again," he ordered the technician monitoring vital signs. "These readings cannot be accurate." The insectoid technician's multiple eyes focused on the display screens. "Sir, the scans are functioning correctly." The human participants show elevated heart rates and some dehydration, but their overall condition remains within acceptable parameters. They appear to be treating this as routine physical exercise. Korath's forearms gestured with frustration. "Routine exercise? That march has broken elite warriors from a dozen different species. The terrain alone should have caused multiple injuries among beings with such fragile bone structure." In the facility's preparation area, the human team was conducting standard post-exercise recovery procedures. They had requested permission to perform what they called cool-down activities, which involved additional light exercise and stretching routines. The alien observers watched in confusion as the humans voluntarily added more physical activity after completing what was supposed to be an exhausting trial. "Maybe we made the first trial too easy," suggested the crystalline advisor. "These humans might be more capable than our initial assessments indicated." "Impossible," Korath replied firmly. "Our analysis of human physiology is accurate. They are a weak species with limited endurance capabilities. There must be some factor we have not considered." The Vorthic general activated the facility's advanced planning systems. "We will escalate to the second trial immediately. If physical endurance is somehow within their capabilities, we will test their mental resilience. No species has ever maintained rational thought processes during extended sleep deprivation combined with tactical problem-solving requirements." The second trial was designed around psychological warfare principles that had proven effective against every known military force. Participants would be denied sleep for 96 Continuous hours while facing complex tactical scenarios that required constant decision-making under extreme stress. The combination had consistently broken even the most mentally disciplined. Alien warriors, Lisa gathered her team for the briefing on the new challenge. The trial would take place in a simulated combat environment where they would face continuous tactical problems, equipment failures, and environmental hazards. Every decision would be monitored and evaluated, with incorrect choices resulting in additional stress factors. 4 days without sleep while solving tactical problems, she summarized for the team. They want to see how we handle decision-making under fatigue and stress. Dave Wilson nodded thoughtfully. Sounds like the selection course for special operations. Remember that final week where they kept us awake for 5 days straight while running us through scenario after scenario? Hell Week was longer, added Tom Bradley. And we had to deal with instructors actively trying to make us quit. This sounds almost relaxing by comparison. Maya Singh was already calculating optimal rest strategies. We can use micro-sleep techniques and rotation schedules to maintain alertness. If we work in shifts, some people can handle the tactical problems while others get brief rest periods. The human team entered the simulation facility with confidence. The environment was designed to be disorienting, with constantly changing lighting, unpredictable sounds, and surfaces that shifted underfoot. Multiple tactical scenarios would run simultaneously, requiring rapid analysis and decision-making. Other teams of alien participants were already showing signs of stress within the first 12 hours. The reptilian warriors, who had seemed so formidable during initial assessments, were struggling with the complexity of the tactical problems. Their natural aggression worked against them in scenarios that required subtle thinking and patience. The crystalline beings were having even more difficulty. Their thought processes appeared to be linear and inflexible, making adaptation to changing scenarios nearly impossible. Several had already begun showing signs of what humans would recognize as panic responses. Meanwhile, the human team had quickly established efficient procedures for handling the continuous challenges. They divided into smaller groups, with each focusing on specific types of problems. Communication remained clear and organized, even as fatigue began to accumulate. Team Alpha handles the logistics scenarios, Lisa directed. Team Bravo takes the tactical combat problems. Team Charlie focuses on the technical challenges. Rotate every 6 hours to maintain fresh perspectives. The alien observers monitoring the trial were becoming increasingly concerned. The humans were not only maintaining their performance levels, but actually seemed to be improving as they adapted to the simulation environment. Their stress indicators are not following expected patterns, reported the monitoring technician. Other species show exponential increases in confusion and error rates. The humans are maintaining steady performance with only minor degradation. General Korath studied the tactical solutions being produced by the human team. They were creative, efficient, and demonstrated clear understanding of complex military principles. More troubling was their apparent ability to maintain this level of thinking despite extended sleep deprivation. "How is this possible?" he asked his senior staff. "Our psychological warfare specialists designed these scenarios specifically to overwhelm rational thought process. No species should be able to maintain tactical coherence under these conditions." By the 48-hour mark, most of the other teams had suffered complete breakdowns. Alien participants were showing signs of hallucinations, paranoia, and inability to process even simple information. Several had to be removed from the simulation for medical reasons. The humans, however, continued working steadily through each new challenge. They had developed efficient rotation systems that allowed team members to get brief periods of microsleep while others maintained operations. Their tactical solutions remained sound and their communication stayed clear and organized. "This is actually kind of fun," Tom mentioned during a brief planning session. "The scenarios are creative and we don't have anyone screaming at us or making us do push-ups when we get something wrong." Dave nodded in agreement. "Plus, we're getting hot meals and clean water regularly. Remember that survival course where we had to catch our own food while solving navigation problems?" This is definitely easier than that. The monitoring staff was now openly discussing the impossibility of what they were observing. Human performance should have collapsed by the second day, yet the team was maintaining effectiveness that exceeded the baseline performance of fresh alien warriors. Perhaps their equipment is somehow providing assistance, suggested one observer. Hidden stimulants or performance-enhancing technology. We have scanned their equipment thoroughly, replied the technician. They are using standard-issue gear, with no modifications or additions. Their performance appears to be based entirely on training and natural capabilities. As the trial entered its final day, the few remaining alien teams were struggling to maintain basic consciousness. The tactical problems had become secondary concerns as participants fought simply to remain upright and aware of their surroundings. The human team, meanwhile, was discussing strategy for the scenarios with the same level of engagement they had shown at the beginning. Fatigue was evident, but their analytical capabilities remained sharp. They continued solving complex tactical problems, while maintaining the teamwork and coordination that had characterized their performance throughout. 96 hours, Maya announced as the final timer reached 0. Not bad for a warm-up exercise. The alien observers stared at the monitoring displays in stunned silence. Every measurement indicated that the humans had not only survived the trial, but had maintained performance levels that exceeded those of elite alien warriors operating under optimal conditions. General Korath realized that his assumptions about human capabilities might require fundamental revision. The species he had expected to assign to support roles was demonstrating military competence that challenged everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about warfare and endurance. General Korath paced the command center like a caged predator. 2 trials had passed, and the humans continued to perform at levels that defied every prediction his staff had made. The species that should have failed within hours was not only succeeding but treating the galaxy's most demanding military challenges as routine training exercises. "This is unacceptable," he growled to his assembled advisors. "We have data on human physiology. They are weak, fragile beings with limited endurance and simple nervous systems. Yet they are outperforming warriors from species that have dominated galactic warfare for millennia." The crystalline advisor's voice chimed with uncertainty. "Perhaps our data was incomplete. These humans may represent an elite subspecies or have received enhancement treatments that our sensors cannot detect." "No," Korath slammed one of his massive fists on the control console. "I refuse to believe that a species we first contacted less than a year ago has military capabilities that exceed our own. There must be an explanation, and we will find it." He activated the facility's maximum security protocols. "Prepare the final trial. Use the complete psychological warfare package combined with live combat scenarios. We will push these humans past any possible breaking point." The final trial was something the Galactic Military Council had never used on newly contacted species. It combined every stress factor known to military science, extreme environmental conditions, live ammunition exercises, psychological torture techniques, and scenarios designed to break the will of even the most determined warriors. Participants would face simulated combat with actual physical danger, exposure to hostile atmospheric conditions, and mental pressure techniques that had been refined through centuries of warfare. The trial had a mortality rate approaching 20%, even among the galaxy's most elite forces. "Sir," the monitoring technician spoke hesitantly, "regulations require that we warn participants about the increased danger level. The final trial carries significant risk of permanent injury or death." "Warn them," Korath replied without concern. "If they choose to continue, they accept full responsibility for the consequences." Lisa Park read the warning notice with interest rather than alarm. The description outlined combat scenarios with live ammunition, exposure to corrosive atmospheric conditions, and psychological pressure techniques designed to simulate the stress of actual warfare. Participants could withdraw at any point without penalty. "They're really pulling out all the stops for this one," she commented to her team. Live fire exercises, hostile environment survival, and psychological warfare all rolled into one package. Tom Bradley was studying the technical specifications for the environmental challenges. The atmospheric conditions look similar to what we trained for on Venus base: corrosive, low visibility, extreme temperature variations. Standard hazardous environment. Protocol should handle it. The psychological warfare stuff is interesting, added Dave Wilson. According to this, they use sensory overload, isolation techniques, and simulated torture scenarios. Sounds like Sear School but with alien technology, Maya Singh nodded approvingly. At least this one sounds like it might be challenging. The first two trials were so easy I was starting to worry about our reputation. The human team entered the final trial facility with the same methodical preparation they had used for the previous challenges. They conducted equipment checks, reviewed tactical procedures, and established communication protocols. Their approach remained professional and calm, treating the trial as another training exercise to be completed efficiently. The facility itself was designed to be overwhelming. Multiple environmental zones created different types of hostile conditions. Simultaneously, combat scenarios used live ammunition and actual explosions to create realistic danger. Psychological pressure techniques employed sounds, lights, and chemical agents designed to induce panic and disorientation. Other participating teams, the few that remained after the previous trials, were showing extreme stress responses before the exercise even began. The mere description of the challenges had been enough to break several alien warriors who withdrew rather than face the conditions. The humans, however, moved through the initial briefing with obvious confidence. They asked detailed questions about safety protocols and ammunition specifications, treating the information session like a routine pre-mission briefing. "Remember your training," Lisa addressed her team as they prepared to enter the trial zone. "This is just like the combat courses back home, except with alien equipment. Watch your sectors, maintain communication, and execute standard tactical procedures." The trial began with immediate sensory assault designed to overwhelm participants' nervous systems. Blinding lights, deafening sounds, and disorienting chemical agents flooded the environment. Most alien warriors would have been paralyzed by the initial shock. The human team simply activated their protective equipment and moved into tactical formation. They had trained extensively in environments designed to overwhelm human senses, and their response was automatic and efficient. "Standard urban warfare protocols," Lisa called over the communication system. "Team Alpha takes point, Bravo covers. Our 6, Charlie handles technical challenges. Move with purpose." The live fire combat scenarios were designed to push participants beyond rational thought through genuine fear of injury or death. Explosions shook the facility while projectiles passed close enough to participants to create actual danger. The psychological effect was supposed to break down military discipline and reduce trained soldiers to panic civilians. The humans treated it like any other live fire exercise. They used cover effectively, maintained fire discipline, and completed objectives with the same methodical approach they had used throughout the trials. The actual danger seemed to improve their focus rather than break their concentration. "Contact." "Left," Tom reported calmly as simulated enemies engaged their position, suppressing fire while Alpha moves to flank. "Copy that," Lisa replied. "Bravo, provide overwatch. Charlie, handle the technical objective while we deal with these targets." The alien observers watching the exercise were beginning to show signs of panic themselves. The humans were not only surviving conditions that had broken elite alien warriors, but were actually performing better under increased stress. "This is impossible," the monitoring technician reported with obvious distress. "Their vital signs indicate increased alertness and improved coordination. The stress factors that should be breaking their minds are actually enhancing their performance." General Korath watched the tactical displays with growing alarm. The humans were completing objectives faster than any team in the facility's history while operating under conditions that should have reduced them to helpless terror. The psychological warfare segment introduced isolation techniques, sensory deprivation, and simulated torture scenarios designed to break participants' will to continue. Each human team member was separated and subjected to psychological pressure that had consistently shattered the resolve of alien warriors. Within hours, the monitoring staff was reporting complete failure of their psychological warfare protocols. The humans were responding to isolation by using meditation techniques to maintain mental stability. They treated sensory deprivation as an opportunity for rest and recovery. The simulated torture scenarios were being handled with the same professional detachment they had shown throughout the trials. "They're actually getting stronger," reported one observer with obvious bewilderment. "The stress factors are having the opposite effect from what was intended. Instead of breaking down, they are becoming more focused and determined." By the midpoint of the final trial, something unprecedented was happening. The human team had not only maintained their performance, but had begun voluntarily making the challenges more difficult for themselves. They were adding extra weight to their equipment, creating additional objectives, and turning the trial into a competition among team members. "This is getting too easy," Dave commented during a brief rest period. "Should we see if they have any heavier ammunition? This stuff barely has any recoil." "Good idea," Lisa agreed. "And ask if they can increase the atmospheric corrosion levels. This environment is actually pretty comfortable compared to what we trained in on Mercury Station." The alien staff monitoring the trial was now in complete confusion. They were watching a species they had considered weak and fragile voluntarily increase the difficulty of challenges that were designed to break the strongest warriors in the galaxy. "They're asking for heavier equipment," the technician reported with a voice that bordered on hysteria. "They want us to make the trial more difficult because they think it's too easy." General Korath stared at the displays showing human performance metrics. Every assumption his civilization had made about warfare, endurance, and mental toughness was being systematically destroyed by a species they had expected to fail within the first few hours. The final trial was supposed to reveal human limitations and justify their assignment to support roles. Instead, it was becoming clear that the galaxy's ultimate military challenge was nothing more than a standard training exercise for properly prepared human soldiers. The final trial concluded with the human team completing every objective ahead of schedule while requesting additional challenges to fill their remaining time. General Korath stood in the monitoring center, surrounded by displays that showed performance metrics he had never seen before. Every alien advisor in the room was staring at the data in stunned silence. "Explain this," Korath demanded, his forearms gesturing at the screens showing human vital signs, tactical performance scores, and psychological evaluation results. "How is a species we classified as weak and fragile achieving these results?" "Commander." Richards had been summoned to the command center immediately after his team's completion of the trials. He stood calmly before the assembled alien leadership, showing no signs of stress or fatigue despite having just witnessed his species' complete challenges that had broken the galaxy's finest warriors. "General Korath," Richards began respectfully, "I think there might be some misunderstanding about human military capabilities. May I ask what your assessment was based on?" The crystalline advisor spoke in tones of obvious confusion. "Our analysis indicated that humans have weak bone structure, limited muscle mass, poor sensory capabilities, and fragile nervous systems. Every biological indicator suggested you would be unsuitable for combat roles." "Your biological analysis is correct," Richards replied calmly. "Humans are physically weaker than most galactic species. We have relatively fragile bodies and limited natural weapons or armor. However, I think you may have misunderstood what makes an effective military force." General Korath's amber eyes focused intently on the human commander. "These trials are designed to test the absolute limits of military capability. Your team not only survived but excelled under conditions that have broken elite warriors from every major species in the galaxy. How do you explain this?" Richard smiled slightly. "General, may I ask how difficult you thought these trials were supposed to be?" "The crucible of endurance represents the ultimate test of military capability," Korath replied with obvious pride. It incorporates every stress factor known to military science. The failure rate among experienced alien warriors exceeds 90%. I see, Richards nodded thoughtfully. General, the trials your team designed aren't actually very difficult by human military standards. In fact, they're quite similar to basic training exercises that every human soldier completes before being considered minimally qualified for military service. The alien command staff exchanged shocked glances. The insectoid advisor spoke with obvious disbelief. Impossible. These trials represent millennia of refinement in testing warrior capabilities. They push participants beyond any reasonable limit. Let me give you some context, Richards continued. The 72-hour endurance march that began your trials? Human military academies regularly conduct training exercises lasting 2 to 3 weeks with similar or greater physical demands. Our soldiers call these field training exercises and consider them routine preparation. He activated his personal communication device and displayed video footage from Earth's military training facilities. The sleep deprivation combined with tactical problem-solving that formed your second trial? We call this Hell Week in use. It as an initial screening process for our more elite units. Most human soldiers experience this multiple times during their career development. The monitoring displays showed scenes of human soldiers undergoing training that made the Crucible trials look mild by comparison. Longer marches, more complex tactical scenarios, harsher environmental conditions, and higher stress levels were clearly visible in the footage. Your final trial combined environmental challenges with live fire exercises and psychological pressure, Richards continued. This is essentially what we call advanced tactical training. Every human special operations. Soldier experiences months of similar conditions as part of their basic qualification requirements. General Korath stared at the human training videos with growing alarm. You subject your soldiers to these conditions regularly as standard preparation? Of course, Richards replied matter-of-factly. How else would we ensure they're ready for actual combat? The trials you designed are actually less demanding than what my team does every morning for physical fitness maintenance. The crystalline advisor's voice cracked with confusion. But your species is physically weak. How do you survive training that exceeds our ultimate military challenges? Physical strength isn't the same as military capability, Richards explained patiently. Humans developed our training methods through thousands of years of warfare with each other. We learned that mental toughness, adaptability, and teamwork are more important than raw physical power. He gestured toward another set of video displays showing human military history. Our species has been refining combat techniques and training methods through constant warfare since before we achieved spaceflight. Every human military unit has access to training programs developed through actual combat experience. The alien staff was beginning to understand the magnitude of their miscalculation. They had designed trials based on their own physical capabilities and limitations, not realizing that humans had evolved entirely different approaches to military effectiveness. Your warriors are individually powerful, Richards continued, but your training methods focus on maximizing individual strength rather than developing the mental resilience necessary for extended operations. Humans learned long ago that wars are won by soldiers who can continue fighting after their individual limits have been exceeded. General Korath's voice carried a note of something approaching fear. Are you saying that your basic soldiers are more capable than our elite warriors? In terms of endurance, adaptability, and mental toughness, yes, Richards replied honestly. Your warriors are physically superior, but they haven't been trained to push beyond their comfort zones the way human soldiers are conditioned to do. From their first day of service, the monitoring technician spoke hesitantly. Sir, the human team is requesting permission to conduct what they call their daily physical training routine. They want to demonstrate normal human military fitness activities. Granted, Korath replied. Though his tone suggested he was dreading what they might see, the alien leadership watched in horrified fascination as the human team began their morning exercise routine, the activities they performed as basic fitness. Maintenance exceeded the physical demands of the Crucible trials. They treated their own training regimen as casual warm-up exercises, joking and maintaining casual conversation throughout. "This is their normal daily routine?" the crystalline advisor asked in a voice barely above a whisper. "This is actually a light day," Richards explained. "They're being careful not to overexert themselves since we're in an alien facility without access to our normal medical support." Lisa Park called out to her team as they continued their exercises. "Remember, people, we're guests here. Keep it simple. Just basic cardio, strength training, and flexibility work. Save the real workout for when we get back to Earth." The alien observers watched human soldiers voluntarily perform physical activities that exceeded anything in the Crucible while treating it as routine maintenance. The gap between human and alien military capabilities was becoming impossible to ignore. General Korath finally understood the full scope of his miscalculation. The species he had expected to assign to support roles possessed military training methods that made his civilization's elite warriors look like untrained recruits. The trials designed to reveal human limitations had instead revealed that aliens had no understanding of what military capability actually meant. "Commander Richards," Korath spoke with the formality of someone acknowledging a superior force, "it appears we must reconsider humanity's role in galactic military operations. Perhaps you could advise us on appropriate assignments for your species?" Richards smiled diplomatically. "We'd be honored to serve wherever the Galactic Council believes we can be most effective. Though I should mention that what you've seen here represents our standard infantry capabilities. Our special operations units are significantly more capable." The alien leadership exchanged glances of alarm as they contemplated the implications of that statement. If human basic soldiers could casually exceed their ultimate military challenges, what were their elite forces capable of accomplishing?